Hello, my name is Anita Morgun. This is News Pulse at UATV. Welcome to the daily segment. Today in the episode, 2 S-400 systems and Orion antenna have been struck in occupied Crimea. Zelensky says Putin will not win the war against Ukraine. Kyiv will not withdraw from Donbass. The Senate supported a bill imposing so-called hellish sanctions on Moscow. More in our next story. Explosions were heard in Tatarstan, Russia last night. According to preliminary reports, drones attacked the Nizhnekamsk oil refinery. Local residents are reporting explosions and drone flights near the refinery on social media. Footage of the attack on the refinery is already appearing online. Nizhnekamsk is one of Russia's main oil refining centers, home to 2 major refineries. There has been no official comment on the attack on the refinery, as usual. Specialists from Group 13, a special unit of the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, struck 2 enemy S-400 Triumph air defense system launchers, as well as the control antenna for an Orion UAV during an operation in the temporarily occupied Crimea. As noted, to strike the occupiers' high-value targets, their reconnaissance units used MAGURA multipurpose maritime platforms, FPV carriers. The estimated losses of the Russian occupying army could run into tens of millions of dollars. The 40-day operation against Russia has cost trillions of rubles in damage to Russian logistics, according to President Volodymyr Zelensky. The president of Ukraine warned Moscow against further attacks on Ukrainian logistics, as the sanctions would be met with retribution.
After the Russians began striking our logistics, we found another logistical approach and responded to them. The losses there are staggering, 1 trillion rubles. This has been a very successful operation by Ukrainian forces. It involved the armed forces, the special operations forces, defense intelligence, the security service, and the foreign intelligence service. Today we work together when carrying out long-range or even mid-range strikes.
Ukraine must receive reliable security guarantees from its partners, particularly the United States. This was stated by President Volodymyr Zelensky. He emphasized that no one can be sure that Putin will not continue his aggression and go further. The Kremlin will continue to manipulate agreements.
Йому потрібно продавати перемогу.
He needs to sell a victory, no victory for Putin in Ukraine. He needs to seize the Donbass. We are not going to withdraw on our own. What can he sell as a victory? He will twist those anchorage terms they discussed with the U.S. side, with the U.S. president. No one is going to abandon their country, their people, and just leave, because no one can guarantee that this person will not go further.
UK Defense Secretary Wes Streeting called on allies to increase supplies of air defense missiles to Ukraine before winter. He stressed that Ukrainians' partners must act now to ensure Ukrainians' air defenses are prepared for the winter period.
United Kingdom would provide the necessary resources where possible, while he would work to mobilize allies to secure additional support where Britain could not provide it directly. It is important for Ukraine to receive the necessary resources before the start of winter, when Russian strikes on infrastructure and other air attacks may place additional pressure on the air defense system. Wes Streeting, Defense Secretary of the United Kingdom, on Times.
The Senate supported a bill imposing so-called hellish sanctions on Moscow. New Zealand expanded its sanctions list against individuals and entities involved in supporting Russia's war against Ukraine. It's important to prevent Russia from spending hundreds of billions on this war, President Volodymyr Zelensky stated in response to journalists' questions about how allies can help Ukraine. How Kyiv's partners are increasing pressure on the aggressor in our next story for you.
New Zealand has introduced its 36th package of restrictions against Russia. Due to involvement in the illegal deportation of Ukrainian children from the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine, the restrictions target 33 individuals and legal entities. The list also includes Kremlin propagandists who spread anti-Ukrainian narratives and attempt to justify Russian aggression, as well as cybercriminals.
Activities conducted behind a keyboard can have real consequences. Cyber actors are increasingly being used to gather intelligence, enable sanctions evasion, and disrupt those who oppose Russia's aggression. New Zealand stands with our partners in calling out Moscow's use of these actors. Winston Peters, Minister of Foreign Affairs of New Zealand, on the government website.
The European Union is also working on new restrictions against Moscow. Brussels has already adopted its 21st sanctions package, and Kiev expects the next 22nd one to hit the Russian economy even harder. Among the key expectations voiced by Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiga is a ban on providing maritime services to Russia. President Volodymyr Zelensky, in turn, called on partners to cut off the aggressor state's critical supply channels for components that Moscow uses to produce ballistic missiles.
Ми піднімаємо питання, що найголовніше для України сьогодні.
We are raising the issue that the most important thing for Ukraine today is defending against ballistic missiles. Hundreds, thousands of components in Russian ballistic missiles come from various countries around the world, from almost every continent, including our close partners. These components arrive, and then they strike our people, and children die, civilians die, and soldiers too, of course. That's why it's important to impose sanctions on Russian weapons, on the supply of these components, and above all, on Russian energy, because they earn money from it and spend it on the war.
Washington is also preparing to increase pressure on Moscow. The U.S. Senate has overwhelmingly approved a bill on so-called sanctions from hell against Russia. It will allow the President of the United States to impose 100% tariffs on goods from countries that continue to purchase Russian oil and gas. This primarily concerns the largest importers of Russian energy resources, China and India. The bill also provides for the possibility of imposing tariffs of up to 500% on direct imports from Russia. Before taking effect, the law must still pass through several more procedural stages. It must be approved by the House of Representatives, which returns to work in September, and will then go to Donald Trump for signature.
Я думаю, що шанси високі.
I think the chances are high that this bill will be passed and signed by President Trump and will take effect. So, overall, we can talk about, so to speak, pressure on the countries of the global south. It's clear that, besides Russia, sanctions will affect China, India, and, in general, other countries that have profited from acting as intermediaries for Russian oil. So, these will also be, so to speak, post-Soviet countries that have traded in this oil, various other intermediary countries as well.
Ukraine is not limiting itself to sanctions pressure on the aggressor. The defense forces continue to carry out long-range strikes on military and strategic targets in the Russian rear, primarily on oil infrastructure. According to Bloomberg, due to Ukrainian attacks, Russia's oil refining volumes have fallen to their lowest level in the past 24 years. Kiev's 40-day campaign of long-range strikes has dealt an extremely painful blow to Putin's war machine.
Там вражаючі втрати.
The losses there are colossal, 1 trillion rubles. This was a very successful operation by Ukrainian forces. It involved the armed forces, the special operations forces, the defense intelligence, the security service, and the foreign intelligence service. Today we act together when we carry out long-range strikes, or even medium-range strikes.
According to Volodymyr Zelensky, Russia is preparing a new wave of mobilization, around another 500,000 people. The Kremlin may try to carry it out covertly so as not to provoke discontent within the country. However, the president of Ukraine emphasized even hundreds of thousands of mobilized troops will not bring Russia victory. Reported by Nikita Skoblikov, UATV News.
That's it for today. I'm Anita Morgun. Thank you for watching the segments. We appreciate your time and effort a lot. Please also share, comment, subscribe to UATV. We got you covered on whatever tomorrow holds for all of us, always in Ukrainian perspective. Stay safe and see you soon.